Oh man, come on! Hey everyone, thanks so much for checking out my new video. I wanted to get this one out a little bit sooner than I did, only because I had some capture card problems. I had this super old capture card that I'd been using for like 6 years to rip VHS tapes, believe it or not, into digital files so that I could share the videos around with people. And not only is it no longer supported, like you can't find the drivers on their website anymore, I also had to use their proprietary video recording software, which is also no longer supported. So it had been working for a while, but just it started crashing or the recording would freeze, and it was just really becoming a pain. So I got this cool new capture card, and using this will finally allow me to use a modern recording software like OBS to help me along with recording all of these videos. Also, the response to the last video was amazing. I cannot believe that I actually got comments and people watching it, so I'm really excited to keep going, and thank you all so much again for taking the time to check this out. I have a different type of video queued up for the next one that I'm excited to talk about, but for now, let's just jump into it. This time, I wanted to do a bit of a different review than the past couple videos, so I thought I'd try my hand at reviewing a game I only found out about years after I had moved on from my PS1 and Super Nintendo. While this is an older game, I have no nostalgic attachment to it. As I have no real memories to share, I wanted this to be more of a review than a retrospective. Harmful Park was released in 1997 for the PS1 in Japan only. I've been playing the Japanese version of the game since I found out about it, but when I decided to play through it again as the next video I wanted to make, I realized there's now a complete English patch that you can apply to the original game from a creator named Hilltop. This translation is incredible, as it translates not only the text but the background elements as well. And I'll have a link to the creator's Patreon page in the description of this video if you want to check it out, as it looks like they have a lot of other really cool translation projects available. I know I certainly will be. Taking place in 2017, the story of Harmful Park starts off by showing us the opening of Heartful Park, an enormous theme park built by a scientist named Dr. Tequila. 2 days after the park is open to the public, 500,000 people enter the park and find themselves trapped by the mad scientist. It turns out that Dr. Tequila plans to make Heartful Park its own independent nation and intends to use the 500,000 hostages as a safety measure to protect him and the park from attacks. Not that an attack would matter though, as he points out the park is made out of a material called Viroid, an alloy that's completely invulnerable. Seeing this, the army dispatches 2 soldiers, Lemone and Leska, to stop Dr. Tequila, receiving assistance from the pair's mom, Cassis, along the way. Cassis used to work in Dr. Tequila's laboratory, so she has inside knowledge on how to take down his army. One of the major perks of using this translation patch is that I can now actually understand the story. I never bothered to really look into that when I played it in the past because the game is awesome enough even without English text, but enjoyed getting to experience all the context here. Straight away, I was actually impressed with the voice acting. I have to remind myself sometimes that the cheesy voice acting present in some of the American localizations of these games was simply common for the time in this region, and other regions had much better acting. So, starting off, I noticed something interesting. By default, the game is set to easy mode, which you'd never know unless you opened up the options screen. Moreover, the game requires you to hit save after changing any of these settings for them to actually take effect. It's funny to me that this game starts on easy mode, as it was usually the polar opposite when it came to localizing games here. Case in point, Mega Man 2's normal mode was essentially an easy mode for Western audiences, with the hard mode being the original experience. I prefer to play on normal, so let's get started. This is a 2D stage-by-stage shooting game that sees you, or you and a friend, scrolling right through a stage, dodging enemies and bullets while blasting away everything you see. The gameplay works like this. You are riding on a hover bike that has the ability to shapeshift its hands into 4 different weapons. You have a straightforward rapid shot called Potato, a homing attack called Jelly, a piercing attack called Ice, and a slow, massive damage AoE called Pie. These are mapped to the 4 shoulder buttons and can be switched on the fly. X and circle will cycle through them in a linear order as well, but I'd really recommend getting familiar with the shoulder buttons so you can swap directly to the weapon you need for the situation at hand. Throughout the stages, you'll be able to grab power-ups, which level each weapon up to a maximum of 4. These upgrades add buffs such as larger spread, more beams, or a larger AoE to the weapons to make them much more powerful. Finally, each weapon has a unique bomb with its own use case. Jelly's bomb, for example, surrounds the player with a shell of jello, which reverses touch damage rolls and renders you invulnerable for a short time. Using this, you can ram yourself into oncoming enemies to wipe them out of your way without needing to use the main weapons. To touch on the rest, Potato's bomb is a screen-clearing nuke that will quickly dispatch all enemies, Pie will fire cakes in a rotating pattern around the player, and Ice will fire out a wide blast from the player that can be tilted up and down to take out more enemies, that one being my favorite. The sum total of stages is 6, each lasting 5 minutes or so with a level boss at the end. Since you're being moved along by the game, you don't have much time to dawdle. However, while you can't really sit still, the developers use this constant movement to throw enemy after enemy and set piece after set piece at the player relentlessly. This is one of those games where you're going to want to pause every so often just to take in everything you're seeing. I endlessly wish we would have gotten some sort of release here in the States, as I know I would have absolutely loved it as a kid. The first stage sees you running through the entrance of the park with balloons and fireworks going off to welcome you in. You'll be moving through rides and dodging enemies shooting snacks out at you. After taking down the level boss, a giant inflatable, you'll move on to the horror house. Oh, wow. Get prepared to start weaving in and out around ghosts, genies, witches, you name it. Okay, so halfway through, you'll end up crashing a wedding. Now then, give her your ring, Julianne. Joseph! Five literal feet away from that is a blue giant with a cat in its head, and finally a green goblin that wears a pumpkin on its head. I feel like I'm drunk. While resting after all that, a monkey comes in and swipes your lunch, so it's off to take the little guy down. Oh, and yes, she absolutely is. Welcome to the party. I love the music here, and there's almost too much to comment on. There's this little guy sunbathing. Sorry, little fella. And, oh, I don't know, a giant ape rides a locomotive into the mouth of a crocodile that bursts out of a mountain. What? The level boss here is Moby Dick, who shoots out little dudes in lifeboats, Colonel Sanders, and takes attack breaks to cry. The next stage is a roller coaster world that has enemies riding on roller coaster cars at you while firing out missiles. This stage is filled to the brim with airships that soak up bullets, meaning Pie is going to be your best friend here. There's an airship with a huge chin and a gorgeous pompadour, and one that has soldiers hanging off ropes resembling nose hair that will, get this, start shooting out blood at you as it approaches death. You arrive at a drive-in movie theater and face off against a giant girl, I can't find the proper name of this boss anywhere, who shoots out flowers and strawberries at you. The strawberries cannot be shot through here, so once again, use your bombs liberally. The duo then takes a break to debrief with their mom, when all of a sudden Leska notices that Heartful Park's parade is about to start, and the two rush off to see it. This time, you'll be blasting your way through a giant carousel in corridors lined with toy soldiers. All the while, fairies spin up from the borders of the screen and send bullets your way. Oh man, okay, you'll fight the king of the castle here along with his guards. The king, as an attack, undoes his pants and shoots out his giant gut, which, you guessed it, also shoots bullets at you. Let's just, forget that. And here we are, the final stage. This is the main factory where all the enemies you faced off against have been put together. Fighting your way through the different automations and assembly lines will really start testing your ability to dodge and nudge yourself ever so slightly to avoid oncoming attacks. I'd like to point out one of the set pieces here in which Dr. Tequila locks you in an elevator which starts descending rapidly. The boxes in the elevator begin to fly around, these will kill you, and end up bursting open to let enemies escape and flood the elevator. Switch to jelly here to make hitting them somewhat easier, especially on your first few runs through. Further on, we'll burst through a roach and worm-infested air conditioning vent and into a large karaoke bar. Hey buddy, back off! You'll need to stay on your toes to avoid enemies popping open beer cans in your direction, oversized clowns, and pre-cut squid. All of this comes to a head with a final fight against Dr. Tequila in a giant battlesuit. He can only be damaged when he opens his stomach up, revealing tons of barrels, or when he pops his head off and it swings around on a slinky. As far as a final boss, he really isn't too tough on the easier difficulties. Ice's bomb is particularly good at dealing with him. Hey, and what's this? After the park explodes, Dr. Tequila's diary falls into the hands of our heroes. It contains several entries from 1999 that reveal Dr. Tequila was actually in love with Cassis and decided to build the park and present it as a symbol of his love for her after seeing how happy she was during a work outing at a theme park back in the 90s. He knew, however, that there would never be anything real between the two of them, causing him to become bitter and callous the more that time went on. So go figure, this is actually a tale about unrequited love. I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention the minigames here. Since this game is quite short, you may be wondering what else there is to do besides the main quest. The game has 3 minigames: Punch Ball, Sky Circuit, and Tank Battle. Punch Ball is unfortunately 2-player only, unless there's something I'm missing here. So we'll skip that one, but basically it's air hockey. Sky Circuit is an obstacle course that sees you speeding through to get the best time or race a friend. And Tank Battle sees you and 3 other players battling it out by shooting lasers and dropping mines. I'm horrible at this, but it is definitely a lot of fun, if for nothing else than getting to see all the chaos. Last one up is Score Attack. If you're familiar with the Toho games and their extra mode, it's a lot like that, except you don't need to complete the main mode first to access it. Score Attack only has 1 difficulty, no matter what you select on the settings menu, and it really is a bear. It's one stage that throws wave after wave of enemies at you, combined with claustrophobic level layout that has you moving up and down columns and in between blocks lined with enemies. I'm not actually able to beat it myself, but I think I can get most of the way through. I once heard Cat Icarus talk about having a gaming bucket list, and I think this mode is definitely going on mine. That and actually completing the very hard mode. I also always like to let you all know where you can find a way to play the games I talk about on this channel. Unfortunately, due to how obscure this game is, I wasn't able to find it digitally on any marketplaces or services. Hopefully, videos like this one and all the others about it will raise awareness, and someday we could find it on a service like GOG. GOG? I don't know. In fact, there's a small page there already that has some votes on it. The link will be in the description below as well. Well, I'm gonna say that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching this long, and as always, thank you so much for checking out my videos. I remember coming across this one a long time ago when I was still in college, and I just from watching the gameplay, it looked cool to me. It seemed like a really cool time, and I remembered playing it with a couple of my friends. I would show it to them, but most of my friends weren't that into retro gaming back then, so it was more something that I would just play by myself. I actually remember a long time ago, I wanted to make a YouTube video about it, but it just never really got anywhere, and I was using like really rudimentary corner face cam capture and OBS to get myself where I needed to go. Yeah, ended up being not the best experience, but this was a lot of fun to get to play through it and look at it critically like this, and really appreciate it. Thank you so much again, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.